What's going on, Bass-TEC fans? Hope everybody is doing great tonight. I know with the spring-like weather and the fish are out biting, we probably a lot of folks gearing up for this weekend. Hope everybody's safe on the water. So, wanted to take a moment tonight and go through one of our sponsors that we have got on board with Georgia Bass-TEC is going to sit down with us tonight. PFD Custom Fishing Rod and Repair. So, no further ado, we'll bring Mr. Sam. How you, sir?
I'm doing good, Merrick. How about you, man?
Doing good, doing good. So, while everybody's hopping on here, let's go through and just tell us about your company that you've started up. I know you've used to do it years ago, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Well, yeah, I actually started building rods back when I was, I think, 14 when I built the first one. And back then I was big into fly fishing, and fly fishing is a very expensive hobby. And being a 14-year-old kid, I didn't have a lot of money to spend on it. And I kind of realized if I could learn how to repair rods and build rods, I could have some gear for a little bit cheaper, save a little bit of money. So I built a fly rod when I was 14, and it was pretty ugly, but it's caught a ton of fish. I actually still have it. And so then the next project I took on was old classic bamboo rods. I wanted a bamboo rod, and they're even more expensive. So I started buying old beat up bamboo rods on eBay and restoring them and fishing them, and then realized I could make some money doing that. So that was my job, my side gig, I guess you'd say, in high school and even into college. I paid for a lot of books in college and a lot of fishing in college by selling bamboo rods, and made a little bit of money doing it. And after I graduated, got back into bass fishing big time. Kind of put the fly rods down for a little while. Dabbled with building a few bait casters and spinning rods and stuff here and there. But when I really got into it was when I kind of picked up kayak bass fishing and fishing tournaments too out of John boats. And I realized like there were things that I wanted out of a rod, out of my equipment that you couldn't necessarily go buy off the shelf at your local academy. Things like for example, I like to do a lot of finesse cranking with little bitty crankbaits, and you got to have something that you can cast a light bait with. You got to have something that's got a lot of flex in it to keep those fish pinned. But you also got to have something that's sensitive enough that you can feel that vibration from that little crankbait. You can't buy a rod that'll do that from Academy without dropping a pretty chunk of change. So I started building some rods to do that, and realized that one, that I really enjoy doing it, but two, that it could be a mutually beneficial relationship if I could build some rods for guys that were like me, looking for, very particular equipment and looking for something made in the USA instead of imported from China, and, help pay for some of my entry fees into some of these tournaments and stuff like that. So that's kind of where we started. And I, my specialty, my interest is building custom rods that kind of fill the niche of the John boat anglers and the kayak anglers and stuff. Cause the bass boat guys, there are some big companies that make rods specifically for them and fill their needs, but there's some little things that, you can tweak with rods that make them a little bit more useful in a kayak or a John boat that I kind of wanted to focus on. So that's where PFD fishing came from. It's named after the PFD you wear kayak fishing, because the first obstacle you got to overcome in kayak fishing is that PFD that you got on all the time. And those big, long handled flipping sticks and cranking rods, just they don't work real well if you're sitting down in a kayak with a big PFD on. So that's where the PFD fishing comes from. So
now, I know you and I have even talked about it, and folks, feel free to comment any questions. I'll kind of pause for a moment. You had mentioned as well for tonight on the show, us going through this, talking about it, you give anybody a discount, 25% off through with your websites, Facebook, just mention the TC. But I'm sure everybody, if there's anglers that's watching this, we've got stashes of rods sitting in a corner that's got guides that have either popped out of them or, broken rod tips and stuff like that. You're able to take and, do these repairs to these rods as well and get them back in the hands of the anglers, right?
Yeah, guides especially are really pretty simple fixes. If you got a guide that's popped off, I can definitely take care of that. Broken rod tips, a little bit more difficult. It's not that they can't be fixed. It's just that, if you're talking the first foot or so at the end of that rod, the action is going to be impacted a little bit. But like if you break a rod halfway down the rod blank or closer to the handle, I can probably fix that and you're not even going to know, other than a little bit of cosmetic difference. You won't know the difference. And I'm not going to, I can fix one if you break the top, 3 or 4 or 5 inches off the tip of the rod, and you can still fish it, but it's still, in my opinion, it's just not worth it at that point, because that little bit of extra weight up there really kind of throws off the action. But yeah, repairing rods is something I can definitely do. In fact, I got a couple rods over here that I repaired for Mac Doyle. Mac makes my shaky heads and my finesse jigs, and I repaired a couple rods for him through some guides on there. And my general rate for that, the first guide is a little more expensive just because I got to make sure I match the thread. I got to make sure I match the guide. So I probably have to make an order for that first guide, which means I've got to pay shipping on stuff. So generally the first guide, you're looking at $25 to $30, but then it's only $10 for each additional guide. So that's, if you're talking $100, $150 rod, replacing a couple guides is kind of a no-brainer. And I'll definitely knock the 25% off that rate if you mention TEC. And for anybody interested in a custom rod, if you comment down in the Facebook feed tonight and say, hey, I'm interested, direct message me, get with me, we'll figure it out. I will build a rod for $110. Generally you're looking at $160 to $200. I'll do one for $110 today for anybody that comments down in the feed. Now, obviously, if you want some kind of crazy expensive blank, we may have to talk on the prices. But if it's the kind of the base level stuff that I generally do, $110, we'll put a rod in your hand. So,
man, that is awesome. So, if you don't mind, kind of go through, show us some of your rods that you've got behind you. Let the viewers kind of see what all maybe different things you've done, customized rods and stuff like that. Tell us about them.
Yeah, so I got a whole mess of rods back here. The general rule of thumb is if they're weird colors, like this green one over here behind me or this blue one, those are factory rods. I don't build a lot of weird colored rods, not because I can't. I mean, it's super easy. You just buy the blank in whatever color you want, but just because I'm not paying an extra $5 or $10 to order a rod that's a blank that's a different color. So if you want one that's a different color, I can definitely do it, but I don't own any that I built that are anything other than black or gray, but I got a bunch back here I've built over time. The two that I kind of want to talk about today, though, are right here in front of me. The first one right here, this is kind of the rod that started it all for PFD fishing. This is a 6'10" composite rod. This reel I got off of AliExpress for like, I don't know, $60. It's BFS, bait finesse, for throwing these little bitty light crankbaits. But this rod it's a 6'10" medium action, and it's a composite rod. You'll notice that the handle on this thing is really short, and that's for fishing out of the kayaks with the PFDs on. That really short handle makes it a lot easier to maneuver around with the PFD. I've got a little bit for this one. I like my rods to be balanced, so I've got a little bit of weight, some lead inside of this grip to make up the difference on that shorter blank. So it's still going to balance, right here, just kind of in front of the reel. So you're still balancing close to your hand. Nothing special, just, micro guides on here. But triggerless reel seat. I really love these reel seats that's got kind of the small mini trigger on it, or triggerless, just because it's a little, I have big hands, so I find a lot of times that most reel seats don't fit in my hand the way I want them to. So that's nice. So I built this one for finesse cranking out of a kayak. And as I'm building it, I realized this was kind of the one that it dawned on me, like, you can't really, I mean, I'm sure somebody makes a rod like this somewhere. but you're not going to walk into Academy with $50 or $75 or even $100 in your wallet and walk out with this rod. So it's built for throwing those little crankbaits, and the composite blank is important for a couple reasons. I've tried fiberglass blanks for this finesse cranking, and fiberglass is really heavy. Fiberglass also is not very sensitive, so you can't feel the vibration in the bait. And the reason that's important for these finesse crankbaits, especially this time of year, is a lot of times those bites are not hard. It's not a big thump like a jig or a spinner bait. A lot of times they're chasing the bait, they're coming towards it, and they'll eat it coming towards you. So you don't really feel anything, but that vibration stops. And okay, I need to set the hook and get a hook in this fish. Or you pick up a leaf on the bottom, and that leaf's not enough to really make the bait heavier, but it throws off that vibration. That's going to ruin your cast if you don't know it's there. You just pop the rod tip a couple times, that leaf comes off, and you're good to go. So the fiberglass is not good for that because it's heavy. It's not very sensitive. It's great for fighting fish because it's going to help those fish stay pinned because it's the full flex, but it's not sensitive enough. It doesn't throw the light baits well, and you can't feel that vibration. Then I went to graphite. Well, the problem with graphite is unless you're spending a ton of money on a blank, graphite's just a little bit too fast, a little bit too stiff. So you set the hook on those fish with these little bitty crankbaits and you're ripping it out of their mouth, or they'll come up and jump and you're not able to keep them pinned. So I went with the composite blank. It's kind of it's not kind of, it is a cross between graphite and fiberglass. It gives me a slow enough action to keep those fish pinned, but it's still sensitive enough that I can feel that little bitty crankbait vibrate. And if something comes up behind it and grabs it and there's not a pull, I can still feel, hey, something is off with that little crankbait. So this is number one. I love this rod, this thing. I fish jerk baits on it. I fish crankbaits on it. Small spinner baits, not anything like super big, like a big Colorado blade, but pretty much any of my small to medium sized moving baits. I throw square bills on it. This thing is phenomenal for that, and it'll throw a square bill crankbait a country mile. So that's the one that kind of started it all in motion. Was I built that rod for a very specific purpose and realized, man, there are probably other guys that need rods like this, or a rod for a very specific purpose. And then the next one I built, a little bit bigger, composite blank, but it's a medium heavy, kind of the same deal. This one, you see I got a bigger square bill on here, spinnerbait rod, chatterbait rod, rattle trap, kind of the same deal. You're fishing a rattle trap or a chatterbait around grass, you need to be able to feel when you hit the grass so you can pop it out. But if you got a graphite rod and you go to pop it out of that grass, you're blowing that bait 3 or 4 feet just like a rocket, and you're just not able to get as many bites. So that composite rod gives you the best of both worlds. It's lighter. You're not going to wear yourself out popping that rattle trap out of the grass nearly as quick as you will with a fiberglass, but you just you hook up with so many more fish than you do with graphite. And it's growing up for most of my life, there was a stigma around treble hook baits because you lose a lot of fish on them. That's just kind of understood. That's something, I was taught as a kid. You got to be careful with these baits because you're going to lose a lot of fish. You go to fiberglass rods, that's not a problem anymore. But you get, your hookup rate is phenomenal, your land rate phenomenal, but you get those downsides of fiberglass. But man, when you get to that composite rod on moving baits, it's just it's a totally different ball game. So,
yeah. So, question: you also make the repairs, like for example, rod seats.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And the only reason why I'm saying this is because I'm thinking I've got a couple that rod seats have messed up where you actually screw it down, tighten it down for the reel itself in the cradle. You can do repairs on them if they're broken, stripped out, replacing them.
Yeah. So reel seats can get tricky sometimes depending on what the repair is. If I have to take the reel seat off entirely and replace it with another one, what can be difficult sometimes, I'll grab this rod for example, is, you start up here, the rod gets thinner as you go down here, it gets thicker. Sometimes you can't get a grip and a reel seat on coming from this direction, right? Which means to replace this reel seat, especially if I don't want to replace this grip, I'm just replacing the reel seat, I may have to take off every single guide on this rod, put the reel seat on, put the guides on. That's not always the case. Sometimes it's as simple probably 90% of the time. You pull this reel seat up, you clean out underneath it, you put some spacers back in there, because what happens is those spacers rot and it breaks. Glue it back and you're good as new. So yes, we can definitely fix that, but with that little asterisk on the side of understand that every once in a while you get a reel seat repair, that it's not that it can't be fixed. It's that, you know, if you got a factory rod that you paid $60 or $70 for, and you're paying me to put a new reel seat and replace, you know, take the guides off and put them all back on, it's probably not going to be cost effective. But if it's just, I mean, I probably have 5 rods behind me that are factory. Almost all those factory rods at some point, the glue has give way, because I abuse my rods. I really do. And it's
let's
pretty easy fix.
So let's talk about. I'm sure people are probably going to have questions about this. Warranties on customized rods.
Yeah. So the way it works currently, I don't have any warranties or guarantees. Not because I won't honor a warranty, not because I won't, like, if you get a rod from me and there's a problem, I'm going to make it right. Obviously, you get a rod from me and you break it, especially these composite rods, like, you know, you break this rod, you probably ran it over with your truck or something. Like, those composites are hard to break. I'm going to work with you. I don't make any guarantees at this point just because of legal reasons, because to get to that point, you really need to be, you got to have a lawyer involved in writing that warranty. You got to have insurance involved in insuring warranty and stuff like that. And eventually we'll get there, but I'm not there yet. So I'm not going to, you know, no lawyers involved, no guarantees, but I mean,
well, for everybody that knows you too, I mean, you're local, you fish these local John Boat clubs. You're with president through with Southern Outcast. So, I mean, it ain't like you're going to be treating anybody wrongly or anything like that. So that's the reason why, you know, we were very well impressed knowing, you know, you're a local company, the growth there that you're wanting to have building these rods and stuff. So, man, I'm looking forward to getting my hands on some rods of yours definitely in the near future. So let's go through and kind of show everybody. I'm going to share the screen just for a little bit here. To give different ways that they can get in contact with you. So feel free to chime in if I miss anything with it. So just give me 1 second here. So on our Georgia Bass-TEC homepage, once you get here, georgiabass-tec.com, I'm showing you different ways you can actually look us up. On the right-hand top side sponsors page, through with the TEC, you'll scroll down and you'll see the logo, PFD Fishing, and then also you have PFD through with Facebook. So we'll start off with a Facebook link. Oh, look at that, Mike Iaconelli live. I need to just quit following him. So we have your Facebook page, an easy way people can contact with you through social media, like you mentioned earlier, right? That you're willing to give some deals for tonight from anybody watching the show or watching it afterwards. Contact you through message. All you got to do is just click it, send through the message through with it for chat, hit them up, ask any questions away that you've got. And then also you have your website itself, pfdfishing.com. Just click into here to your custom rods page. You can go through and talk about all the stuff through there that you're looking for, technique specific, type of rods you're looking for, what you're using them for, what type of sensitivities, casting, spinning, hybrids to it, and anything additional comments to it. And then you also have your rod repairs section page where you can go in and give more detail of what type it is. You kind of go through with it as far as the guides, reel seats, grips, stuff like that. So just all you got to do is just get in there and give a description to it. And once you're done, just click contact us, right?
Yeah. And on these, especially on the custom rods page, don't feel like if you're filling this out and you're not quite sure on some of these things, don't feel like you're making a commitment to a rod or something when you fill this out. The point of this form is to start a conversation. You know, I'm not looking to just put a rod in your hand. I'm looking to figure out exactly what you want, even if you don't necessarily know exactly what you want. figuring out what you want and put the tool in your hand that you need. So this is going to start a conversation. It's definitely not the end of the conversation, because I know for a lot of us, you know, before I started building bass rods, I didn't know what all my options were. I didn't know why I might want a longer handle or a shorter handle, or a 7 foot versus a 6'9", stuff like that. So that's an ongoing conversation we can have, and don't feel like you got to know exactly what you want when you reach out. That's something that we can definitely figure out as we talk about what you need. So
awesome. So had any comments come through? We'll take and kind of conclude a little bit onto this live tonight. Just kind of wanted to give some recognition through with your sponsorship, if you want to. If you recall correctly, if you need me to kind of help speak up on the TEC sponsorship, we're going to be giving away a fishing rod through the event itself. So
yeah, so we're giving away a rod to the winner, and something I guess we didn't think about. There's going to be 2 winners at the TEC, so we'll have to think about if that ends up being 2 rods, or if we let you fight for it in the parking lot there. So
well, if it's 1 rod, we've got big fish, and we can go that direction, or if it's 2 rods, then it can be to one of the teams that are with it. So
yeah, so custom rod, go through the whole process of picking out what you want, and building exactly what you want. So really excited about that, and I'm kind of hoping that somebody like wants a specific rod for Juliet, just for no other reason than the fact that, like, I don't fish water like Juliet a whole lot, so it's going to be whatever it is they want. It's going to be different than what I'm used to. Not to say the building process is going to be different, but like the blank is going to be, a different blank probably than what I'm used to building on, because we don't have a ton of grass up here. We got a little bit, but not like what I've heard they have in Juliet. So
lots of it. It is. So we appreciate viewers tonight. If there's no questions at all, feel free, after watching this live feed, go back through the pages, reach out to Sam through a PFD Fishing, Custom Rods and Repair, and they'll be more than glad to speak with you and consult for whatever type of rod needs you've got. Yeah. Sam, we appreciate your sponsorship and appreciate you taking time tonight and explaining about your company and the building of rods that you do.
Yeah, I appreciate the opportunity, and excited to see y'all again at the TEC in April. So
won't be long. Thanks, Sam.
Yes, sir.
All right, folks, that's it. Appreciate each and every one of you tuning in tonight. And if you're watching this after the live, again, go back through those pages, and we'll be back live next week for our Hooked Up Live interview. So we'll see everybody next week. God bless.